In early August, Senator Lisa Murkowski introduced the Arctic Commitment Act. It calls for stepping up the U.S. military presence in the region and boosting investment in commerce and research. Ryan Burke is a professor of military and strategic studies at the U.S. Air Force Academy. Ryan, welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So the proposed bill in Congress orders the Navy and Coast Guard to look into establishing a year-round presence in the Arctic. Do you think that's a good idea?
Good idea. It's a better idea said than actually done and executed. The reason being is because when you're actually in the Arctic and operating in the maritime environment, there's a handful of restrictions that simply can't be overcome by just saying we need to be there. We need to actually think about this and deliberately make a better choice to go up there, but we need to look at the assets that are better suited by way of their capabilities to actually operate in the region.
Okay, so in your op-ed, you actually talk about the military partnering with NOAA.
Correct.
For the Arctic. How would that work?
The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, I believe, is a underutilized federal partner in the Arctic. They currently perform quite a bit of the survey research that the Department of Defense uses to inform its own Arctic operations, and NOAA's Office of Marine and Aviation Operations has a fleet of 15 vessels, many of which, about a third of which, already operate in the Arctic as we talk today. 6 of them are ice-hardened hulls. The U.S. Navy has 0 ice-hardened hulls. So NOAA's fleet of maritime vessels can already operate and already does operate in the Arctic. Frankly, they are the more Arctic present of the maritime services than the Navy and the Coast Guard, at least currently, by way of underway legs and actual time days at sea in the Arctic.
But they're data collection and research. I mean, they're not a military presence.
They're not, but they could be. So presence in strategic dialogue, presence equals influence, right? Presence, if we want to be influential in the Arctic, we need to actually be in the Arctic. And right now, the Navy has had a handful of sailings north of the Arctic Circle since 2018. Prior to that, they hadn't sailed north of the Arctic Circle since 1991. If we want to be influential in the Arctic, we have to have a physical presence. It, again, is easier said than done. And what I'm suggesting is that we should simply utilize an already present Arctic asset in the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and utilize their vessels to enhance environmental intelligence, create domain awareness, and increase the decision superiority so we can create a better and safer and more secure Arctic environment for the United States.
Well, you know, the Arctic had always been an area of international cooperation. The U.S. and Russia cooperated before. Why have attitudes changed now?
So with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which
is a big one.
It's a huge one, and let's not discount the significance of that, because right now Russia is the chair of the Arctic Council. The Arctic Council is an international forum that has long presided over, since 1996, its establishment in '96, it has long presided over the Arctic as a region of what we refer to as exceptionalism, peace and stability. However, today, my opinion is, and this is shared by several others, is that the United States and the 6 other Arctic states that have removed dialogue with Russia since its invasion of Ukraine, we've done ourselves a disservice. We've only increased the instability or the potential for instability and conflict by severing ties, at least diplomatically, through dialogue and discussion with the one nation or the one state that is actively prosecuting an unfounded and unjust war, and it is an international belligerent. And now we have effectively removed all ties diplomatically with Russia in the Arctic by way of severing ties through the Arctic Council. We've only created a bigger chasm rather than engaging in more productive dialogue in a region that has long been exceptional and a zone of stability. We are now creating, again, a bigger rift between the West and Russia.
Now, you know, there's talk, obviously, of Finland and Sweden joining NATO. They are within the Arctic Circle. How does that change things?
If anything, we believe it'll happen, right? We're waiting on a handful of other NATO states to sign the accession, but we believe it'll happen. And if anything, it increases the NATO's posture by way of obviously strengthening the alliance, right? By bringing in 2 Arctic states that have Arctic territory, it creates more opportunities for the United States and other NATO allies to engage in more military exercises and, again, be more present within the Arctic, but in more established capacity.
You know, in June, President Biden did mention the potential for conflict in the Arctic. Mm-hmm. Is that a real possibility?
It's always a real possibility, especially with the way things are going right now. We can certainly tell that the environment is changing, competition is increasing, and as we look through the competition to conflict continuum, we see indicators that we are progressing toward that. However, point being that I'd like to emphasize here is that operating in the Arctic is an extraordinary challenge. Whether you're talking about ships on the maritime domain or flying or frankly even operating on the land domain or in the land domain, when negative 45 degrees hits your skin, you're going to go frostbitten in about 5 to 10 minutes without a wind chill. If you add any bit of a wind chill, you're looking at 2, 3, 4 minutes max. You simply can't sustain operations without extraordinary training and extraordinary equipment. And so it's easier said than done to actually conduct and prosecute operations in the Arctic for whatever purpose we decide we want to do that.
So what does it actually look like? What do future military operations look like in the Arctic?
We have a lot of strategies that the Department of Defense and the respective services have brought out, saying that the Army, as an example, wants to dominate the Arctic. I think it's, frankly, an unpalatable proposition because Russia dominates by way of its landmass, right? More than 50% of the Arctic. It has more of a maritime presence than any other country around the world. We simply can't do what we are saying we can do in the Arctic by way of these strategies, at least not right now. We need further investments, we need further training, and we need further awareness of the Arctic domain, which is, again, circling back to the NOAA proposition. I believe that this is an underutilized federal asset that certainly can increase our environmental intelligence and our domain awareness toward these desired ends.
And I know you're a military strategy professor, but I want to ask you, is diplomacy still possible as long as that war in Ukraine rages on?
It's possible, but it requires a concerted effort among each of the Arctic states that has right now severed ties with Russia as a result of their invasion. I believe we can look at this more pragmatically and suspend our ideology for a moment, suspend morality for a moment, and look at the situation in the Arctic and say, from a pragmatic standpoint, we collectively as Western states need to engage with Russia to maintain a positive dialogue and to deter conflict and prevent conflict from happening. Absent that, I believe we are headed toward conflict in the Arctic.
All right. Well, let's hope not. Ryan, thanks you so much for being on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any future Government Matters interviews.